Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central, and it's time for another episode of Guns N' Roses True Stories. So today we're talking about the cover song that Guns N' Roses did on the Spaghetti Incident. This one is a T-Rex song called Buick Mackane, and then they also combine it with a Soundgarden song called Big Dumb Sex. Now this song is special because it features both Slash and Axl on vocals. So both Axl and Slash were on Rockline in 1994 promoting the Spaghetti Incident, and a caller called in and asked them both, how did you guys come up with this song to cover?
Come about?
Well, that was mine.
Yeah, because I got a phone call.
I played it for you.
In the middle of the night over the phone. The song was already recorded, and Axl sang the Soundgarden thing. And
because the riff was very similar, if not the same, and I just thought it added something to it, and plus we really like the Soundgarden guys, and that particular song is, I think, a song that I just considered a cult classic, whether it is or not, and it fit together with the T-Rex thing. And when we put the album together, Slash was a big fan of that particular T-Rex song, and I remembered that, and I asked if he wanted to put that on here as one more song, because I thought that would balance things out and get something else out of our closet that was waiting to be recorded.
So I had to sing it, right?
Yeah, you had to sing it.
Yeah, that was you two guys sang together on that.
But the combination of it, of the two songs and all that was, the song was more or less done, and then Axe sang just real naturally over the end of it and put the Soundgarden vocals on there.
It's a real sexy song, and then the end gets kind of aggressive, and so an aggressive sexy song on top of that.
Aggressive would be an understatement. It pretty much cuts to the chase.
It just cuts right to the chase.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to go to Oklahoma City.
So here's what Slash said in another interview about covering the song. He said, "We never did talk to Soundgarden about doing Big Dumb Sex. It was one of those spontaneous things. We were in the studio and it just sounded good." Slash also said in another interview with the LA Times in 1995 that I hate singing. I don't have the personality for it. I tried it on the T-Rex song on the Spaghetti Incident because Axl didn't feel comfortable singing that song. So the only way it would make it on the record was if I did it. I freaked out and felt like I had to have a guitar hanging on my shoulder just to be able to stand it in front of the mic and sing. And then here's an interview that Slash did with MTV in late 93, early 94 talking about Buick Mackane.
The fact that we got, or at least I got Buick Mackane off my chest, a song I used to listen to over and over and over again.
Buick Mackane was the first Guns N' Roses song to feature Slash on lead vocals.
I hate hearing my own voice on record, I can deal with the guitar aspect of it, but when we were recording it, I had the hardest time feeling comfortable in front of a microphone. Standing by myself with no guitar is not my forte. I don't plan on doing it again, though. There won't be any Slash sung, Slash vocals other than backgrounds on the next Guns record. I promise you that. Famous last words, right?
So Gilby also talked a bit about the song. He said, "I suggested a T-Rex song when we were first doing it. It was supposed to be a punk rock covers record. That was what I was told, but then it just became kind of a covers record, and I did suggest T-Rex. Back in the day, I would be wearing a T-Rex shirt like every single day. Matt used to joke, okay, we got it. You've worn that shirt every day. I didn't pick the song that we did. I just suggested doing a T-Rex song. I wanted to do 20th Century Boy or Children of the Revolution or something. I didn't know who came up with the song that we did, Buick Mackane, and I did make the comment about Nazareth too and Hair of the Dog because I always thought that Axl sounded like the singer of Nazareth, not even knowing that the band actually played the song way before I got in the band. It was a unanimous choice to do the Nazareth tune. It wouldn't have been my choice, but I think the only song that Slash ever actually sang on. He did a lot of background vocals. He was very excited about that." Now, you guys are maybe wondering, well, did Chris Cornell ever comment on Big Dumb Sex being included on the Spaghetti Incident? Actually, he did. He did make a brief comment in an interview he did back in the 90s. Here's what he had to say. Let's take a look at him. So in the interview with Chris Cornell, they were, I think, talking about Soundgarden's new album, Super Unknown. And the article has a section that states, "It seems Cornell has fans everywhere. Axl Rose once expressed his admiration for his voice in a quote that accompanied the release of the Louder Than Love album. Cornell seems a little embarrassed by it all, but was pleased that Guns N' Roses represented the band on the Spaghetti Incident album Big Dumb Sex. He had this to say, I thought that was cool," he said quickly. "I think we're definitely the youngest band on that record besides Guns N' Roses, which is pretty great." And then probably, I don't know if it was the same magazine or it was maybe a couple months later, but Slash was being interviewed, and the question of Soundgarden on the Spaghetti Incident actually came up. So the interviewer said, Soundgarden's Chris Cornell said he was pleased with their involvement with the Spaghetti Incident, particularly as Soundgarden were the youngest band on there apart from Guns N' Roses, to which Slash said, "What did Chris have to say?" asks an intrigued Slash. "I have not talked to him. We never did talk about them doing it. It was one of those things that was sort of spontaneous, and when we were in the studio, it just sounded good. Out of all the bands that we played with during the Use Your Illusion tour, Soundgarden was one of the coolest, one of the most personal and down-to-earth bands that we played with, so I was just happy to even represent them at all, and to pay homage to them in the first place, but I did wonder what they might think when they heard it." Now, Slash did reveal that he did talk to a lot of the other acts who were actually covered on the Spaghetti Incident, and basically said what they had to say about being covered on the album. So he said, "I talked to Iggy," referring to Iggy Pop. He said Iggy knew about it though beforehand. "I talk to Iggy all the time anyway. He's a good friend. He's happy that we're doing anything in the first place, so that was cool." He also said he talked to Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, and of course he was just like, "Well, when's it coming out? When's my first check?" And then he also said he was happy with it. He also revealed in the same interview that Duff wanted to include a Ramones song on the Spaghetti Incident or something by the Canadian punk band DOA, but they just never had a chance to do it. They also recorded a version of the Stooges song Down on the Street, and Slash revealed they just never put vocals on it, and he said there's a version of it, but they just never finished it, and that's why it was never included on the actual album. So in the beginning, of the Use Your Illusion tour, Guns N' Roses had a number of different opening acts, and a band that was opening quite frequently for Guns N' Roses because a lot of other bands didn't want to open for Guns N' Roses was Soundgarden. So before we get to that part, I want to show an interview that Chris Cornell did back in 1990. He was on MTV, and the interviewer told him that Axl is a huge fan of Soundgarden, and basically asked Chris what he thinks about Axl Rose being a fan. So here's the interview.
Chris, I read in an interview from Axl Rose that he said that he thinks you're like the best vocalist out there.
Wow.
Did you are you friends with those guys or?
We met him. We met Axl. He came to a couple of our shows.
'Cause I know he's a big fan of yours.
Yeah.
Now, the very first show that Guns N' Roses played with Soundgarden as a supporting act took place on December 5th of 1991. This was in Worcester, Massachusetts, and this was actually Gilby Clarke's very first show as well. Now, this is the only photo I've ever been able to find of this actual gig. There's pro shot footage elsewhere, but it's probably in a vault somewhere with the Guns N' Roses camp. Now, Soundgarden would go on to support Guns N' Roses for the rest of 1991, all the way through the rest of their US tour dates, up to the last show they played in Europe in 1992, which was in Lisbon, Portugal. Now, sometimes Soundgarden would be the only opening act. Other times, they'd be joined by the band Faith No More as well. It was pretty common for a lot of the European shows for there to be Soundgarden and Faith No More opening for Guns N' Roses. Now, if you guys have read Slash's book that he put out back in 2007, he talked about Soundgarden opening for Guns N' Roses, and he said Guns couldn't believe how seriously Soundgarden grunge masters took themselves, and Slash said that Soundgarden came from a place where there was no fun to be had while rocking, so during their final show together, Slash, Matt Sorum, and I think Duff actually got naked, went out on stage while Soundgarden was performing with some blow-up dolls, and we're just goofing around backstage, and Slash, I think, was so drunk that he actually fell, and then he actually had to be taken off stage by the Guns N' Roses handlers. And Slash did an interview in Prague in the Czech Republic back in 1992. And he talked about Guns N' Roses choosing who would open for them, and he talked a bit about Soundgarden, as you can see here. And then we also have an interview with Soundgarden talking about the impact of actually opening for a band like Guns N' Roses.
Bands.
We did.
Do you like their music?
Yeah.
Can you say about them something?
Well, Faith No More is a band that we got turned on to a while back when their first record, not their first record, their third record came out, and we loved it. So that was one. Soundgarden, we got turned on to at some point. I don't remember when, but we just thought they were great. So when it came to support bands, we like to play with people that we like.
And how is
Roses tour? Yeah, perhaps a little bit, because I think a lot of people wanted to do interviews with us to find out about Guns N' Roses, and our audience grew pretty quickly, and the press, the circle of people we had a working relationship with, keeps growing, and pieces are moved, new pieces are added, and with the Guns N' Roses tour, the circle was really huge, a lot larger as far as who wanted to deal with you and who wanted a piece of you, and you don't have any time to develop these relationships or even maintain them or anything. So that could be a little bit quick. You got half the people you don't even want in your circle. You don't even want to deal with them. They're there.
And following the Use Your Illusion tour, Soundgarden would eventually go on to do a number of records before they actually broke up. And, you know, there's a number of interviews that Chris Cornell did over the years where he talked about what it was like to tour with Guns N' Roses. This is a photo I found of Slash actually jamming with the guitarist from Soundgarden back in 1991 at the Hollywood Palladium. I thought you guys might enjoy. So let's talk about Chris Cornell's actual quotes. Chris Cornell did an interview back in 2012 where he talked about what it was like to actually open for Guns N' Roses. And it was an interview with Vulture.com, and this is what he had to say about GNR. He said, without saying anything negative about Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose, what I remember the most was Duff and Slash and everyone else being regular, sweet, warm guys in a rock band that just wanted to play rock music, he said. And then, like, there was this Wizard of Oz character behind the curtain that seemed to complicate what was the most ideal situation they could have ever been in. They were the most successful and famous rock band on the planet. Every single show, hundreds of thousands of fans just wanted to hear their songs. For some reason, there seemed to be this obstacle in just going out and participating in that. That is what I remember the most. It's sad. There was also an interview he did back in 2005 where he was asked about touring with Guns N' Roses and about anything he really remembered. He said there was two main things. First, they had this enormous aluminum stage with catwalks, and at the end of each catwalk was a teleprompter so Axl could read the lyrics to his own songs, which I thought was a little weird since they only had 2 albums. He also said that the other thing that he remembered was that you were not allowed to be in the hallway or anywhere where Axl might see you when he was walking between the dressing room and the stage unless you were Chris Cornell. So one day I see a security guard walking him down the long corridor where there's no one except for me, and it's like they want me to see him. He's wearing his Axl Rose tennis shoes that say Axl Rose on them, and these teeny tiny painted on red shorts, a backwards baseball cap, and a fur coat that goes to the floor, and he just walks by and goes, "Hey bro," and that was it. At that point, it's one of those moments where you think your life is a comic book and it isn't really happening. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hit the comment section down below, guys. Let me know your thoughts, and be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the contents of this video, and subscribe if you love Guns N' Roses and you want to see more videos just like this. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also support my channel on Patreon. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.